My name is Robin Elliott, and I would like to talk to you about the mental power required to recruit effectively. We all want to recruit. We all want to recruit more people. How do we develop a mental strength to do that correctly? Because I find that most of us have a problem when it comes to mental strength. That is where things tend to fall apart. So we need to be able to look at that. What is stopping us? What is slowing us down? How can we get better? Because it's no good having a great car with no gas in it. And that is effectively what happens when you have all the tools, all the techniques, and you have a great product or a great service, as we do with Karatbars, but you don't have the mental strength or the emotional strength. And so when they say enthusiasm sells, enthusiasm really comes from self-knowledge, a good self-esteem, a good way of thinking about yourself. So we're going to run through real quick, as fast as possible, 10 things that are essential to mental strength in anything we do, but particularly when it comes to recruiting people into Karatbars business. These are important, and in any business. So number one, if you were to imagine yourself as a big fish, and inside that fish are little fish, and they're all going hopefully in the same direction, but they're not in the real world, because we can have the ideal and the real. In the real world, a lot of those fish are swimming in different directions. So if we were now to substitute the fish for an arrow, and the arrow is the direction that you wish your life to go in, and we have this arrow and it's going along, and inside the arrow most of the arrows are aligned, but some of them are conflicting. It's going to slow that arrow down. It's going to slow your fish down. You're not going to get to where you want to be as fast as you could. And in fact, it could go backwards. If all those little fish start turning the wrong direction, you're going to stop, or you're going to go backwards, let alone going forward, or you'll go forward very slowly. So what are those fish? Those are the different areas of our lives, right? Our self-esteem, how we feel about ourselves, our relationships, our physical, mental, spiritual, emotional, economic, social, all the different areas of our lives are represented by these little arrows. And we want every arrow to be as aligned as possible. They're never going to all be aligned. They're never going to be perfect. We know this is the real world. I understand that. I'm 66 years old. I haven't learned this yesterday. And in our lives, we want to try, and the more they are aligned, the faster you will proceed, the more money you will make, the happier you will be, the more impact you will have on the world around you, not only regarding money, because it's not all about money, but it really does make a huge difference in the way you feel about yourself, the way you treat others, because if you feel good about yourself, you tend to treat others better. And so these fish need to be aligned. All our activities, everything needs to be going in the same direction. So that's just the basis where we're starting from, point number one. And point number two is guilt. This is, I find, a big problem in our lives. It's not spoken about very much, but it really is true, because there's such a thing as guilt and self-sabotage. So for example, a salesperson who feels really guilty about something that he has done, or that he is doing, or something he did in the distant past, if he feels guilty about that, he tends to punish himself, right? And so how do we do that? We miss appointments, we show up late, we forget appointments completely, we don't groom ourselves correctly, we forget our lines, we don't prepare properly. So we tend to punish ourselves for guilt. This is very true. So we need to get over this guilt. And the best way to do that is to realize that people are different places, just as we were. And all the mistakes that you've made in your life were for a reason. In some cases, if you knew then what you know now, you would never have made that choice. You had limited information. You didn't understand the consequences of your choice at the time. You might have thought, oh, it's not a big deal, but it actually was a big deal. I've made those mistakes, believe me. And we make those mistakes because of certain reasons. Sometimes our priorities are mixed up. Sometimes we're desperate. Sometimes we need the money, whatever. But we make wrong choices. And we all do that. Everybody makes wrong choices. Right? That's what life is about. Learning what works, what doesn't work. And so if you feel in your life that there are things that I've done wrong, and there are things that you've done wrong, we need to come to an understanding of that. So let's think of other people. Have other people wronged you? Are there other people whom you hate? I know it's not politically correct and socially acceptable to say I hate somebody and I wish I could kill them, but it is in fact, the way many of us feel about certain other people. So we need to come to terms with that, because if you can't forgive others, how could you forgive yourself? Right? Once we learn to forgive others, it's easier to forgive ourselves. So we need to come to terms with that. So one of the ways to do that is to think, I don't understand what was happening in that person's life when they did that. If I was in the same situation, I might have done the same thing. You know, it's like people wandering around in their camo outfits. They've never been in combat, but they've got a big mouth about combat. Or people talking about other countries where they've never been, and all they know is the propaganda that is fed to them by the media. Having not been in that situation, we don't know what we would have done in a similar situation, because we don't know everything that's going on in somebody else's life. We don't know what their priorities are, what the pressures are in their life. Once we understand that, it gets easier to be forgiving, to be understanding, because you cannot forgive yourself adequately when you don't forgive others. And it removes a great burden from you. You know, there was one particular person that I really found it very difficult to forgive this particular person in my life for what this person had done and the lives that had been affected and so on. The only way I could get around that was to start thinking about what was going on in her head at the time and how she perceived her situation. And then I started praying for her. And at first, not very sincerely, but the more I prayed for her, the easier it got for me. And eventually I was praying for her sincerely, and I found magically that I'd forgiven her. Now that's one way to do it, and it's the way I recommend. But once we start to understand that people are in different circumstances, and were you in those same circumstances, you might make very different choices. I was in the army, I was in combat. Believe me, combat is not what everybody thinks it is from the movies. And anybody that's been in combat will agree with me, I'm sure. It's not what it seems to be. And you might think you're going to react in a certain way, but chances are you might not. So we don't know ourselves until we're in that situation, any more than others know themselves till they're in that situation. And it might be intended, it might not even be intended. They might not even be aware of what they were doing to hurt you. So we need to learn to forgive others in order to forgive ourselves. And as we forgive ourselves, and we learn that, we will free ourselves up of that burden of guilt and unforgiveness and move on faster. The next thing is fear, panic, and worry. You know, fear, panic, and worry, people will do more to avoid a loss than to gain a benefit. And it keeps a lot of people awake at night. Stress is an amazing thing. Stress is a big problem in our society. And we need to deal with worry, fear, and panic and anxiety. And we need to do that effectively. And in order to do that, we need to get perspective. And sometimes that requires speaking to somebody. I was once in a financial situation, I was really, really worried. I spoke to two friends, and between the two guys, individually, they gave me information that changed my whole thinking about my financial situation. So we need mentors, we need good people that have been where we are, and that can give us good advice about what's going on in our lives, right? But think of what Dale Carnegie said, and I just want to read my notes here. It said, of the things that we worry about, 40% never happen. We worry about it, but it's never going to happen. So 40% never happen. 30% have already happened, and we're still worrying about them. That's usually guilt, right? But it's 30% already happened. 22% are trivial matters. They really have no effect on anything. They're trivial, 22%, which leaves 4% of things that we can't change. So I have two questions for myself. What's the worst that can happen, and how would I handle that? Isn't the first question? It's two questions, but it's actually the first question. What's the worst that could happen in my life, and how would I handle that? And am I prepared for that? And can I prepare for that? And how would I prepare for that? And the second question is, how well prepared am I in my life to handle things that are extraordinary, that I couldn't deal with, or that I couldn't prepare for or know about, but how strong am I to be able to reasonably react Because often it's not about what you do, it's about how you react to your outside circumstances. So we need to get into a place spiritually, mentally, and emotionally where we can choose our reactions rationally and for the best. So that means a lot of self-development. And that's why Jim Rohn said, work harder on yourself than you do on your job. Right? We need to be aware of that. So we need to get worry in perspective that only 4% of things that we can change. The things that we can change, we need to work on. And those trivial things often have to do with other people. We'll get to that. So the next thing is focus. You can't serve two masters because you will love the one and despise the other. It's impossible to really be successful when we're focusing on two different goals, because one will affect us more than the other. We will always be more loyal to the one than the other, and usually it's the bottom line, but not always. So we need to focus. We need to decide, this is the work I'm going to do. I'm either in Karatbars, or I'm in Mary Kay, or I'm in Melaleuca, or whatever else you want to be in. But where is your focus? Now, you might have a job and do Karatbars. Then your goal should possibly be, I want to finally leave my job that I can focus full-time on Karatbars. We have the capacity now in Karatbars to be able to do that. But we have to be, careful how we do that. You don't just throw up your job and run into a new thing. We still have bills to pay and families to feed. So we need to be aware of focus. Where focus goes, energy flows and business grows. Where focus flows, where focus goes, energy flows and business grows. And we choose to focus on any given thing at any given time. This is not just the big picture. This is focusing on, what do I like about this person? What do I admire about this person? How would I like to emulate this person? What could I learn from this person? Focus on that, as opposed to, what don't I like about this person? What irritates me about them? Right? We need to choose our focus in perception, our focus in activities, our focus in everything. We need to consciously choose that focus. And when we see we're off track, and we often go off track. Oh, I thought that was a fire alarm for a minute. It's not. When we do go off track, we need to be able to acknowledge I'm off track and fix it. Right? Don't beat yourself up. It's like people set these ridiculous New Year's goals, right? My New Year's resolutions. And they get to day 2 and they think, oh, I forgot to run 4 kilometers today, and so I'm giving up, right? No, run 4 kilometers tomorrow. Just start over. Don't give up. We only lose when we give up. So just imagine the 2 boxers in the ring, and the one guy falls down on the canvas and he's lying there and they're counting him 1, 2, 3. Until it gets to 10, he has the chance to get up and get back in the fight. Right? So focus means focusing on your choices, reminding yourself of where you're going, reminding yourself of where that arrow is pointed, where that fish is swimming to. Right? And then getting your focus back and focusing on what matters. The focus is incredibly important, and the most successful people that I've ever known are all very, very focused. They serve one master, they're focused, they're not all over the map, and that's important. So you want to be focused. And the next thing is sunk cost. The sunk cost fallacy is something that retards the progress of many people. The sunk cost fallacy is like when I belong to a certain service club, and one of the fellows there, I resigned from the service club for a certain reason, and he called me after about a week or 2 weeks later, and he called me and he said, Robin, I'm so sorry you left the club, but I'd just like to take you for dinner. So he took me for dinner at a nice restaurant, and we were having dinner, and he said, the reason why I wanted to talk to you was, I stood up for you in the meeting afterwards where we evaluated your resignation, and I said to them, I don't blame Robin for leaving for these reasons and these reasons and these reasons. So I said to him, what I don't understand is you're a successful lawyer. You're a very smart man. You're successful in your social life, in your business life. Why don't you leave? Do you agree with the reasons? Oh, yes, I do. Why don't you leave? And this is what he said to me. He said, I've put too much time and money and effort into this club to walk away. I'm not getting the results. but I can walk away. That's called sunk cost. I have sunk too much time and money and effort and commitment into this project to be able to walk away. Never mind it's dragging me down. Never mind it's putting me out of business. Never mind I'm getting more and more into debt. But it's a sunk cost, so you get stuck. We need to be able to cut bait. We need to be able to burn the bridges. We need to be able to walk away. This thing is don't burn your bridges. Let me tell you something. A lot of bridges need to be burnt, especially with losers and parasites. But we need to understand that. We need to be strong mentally. And so when something's not working out and you know, listen, I can recruit this guy, but I know what he's done to me in the past. I know what he did to other people. He's not the kind of guy I want in my Karatbars business. Walk away. Have the strength to walk away. Don't let money control your decisions. If it's all about the money, you're in trouble. It's got to be about the passion, and it's got to be about the focus. And Elon Musk is one of those guys. You know, when Elon Musk started Tesla and SpaceX, he put more than all the money he had that he'd made from PayPal and the other things. He put everything plus debt into that Tesla and SpaceX. It's no wonder it's so successful. Because really, when you get to know the story, he is more passionate about his goals and his mission and his vision and his values than he is about making money. And that's why he's a billionaire many times over. It's got to be about freedom. And for me, Karatbars is about financial and mental freedom and privacy for individuals. And if I can help people to have a golden future, especially seniors, if I can help them to live a life, because as we get older, there's sicknesses, all sorts of things that we have to deal with. You do not want financial pressure on top of that if you can avoid it. And that's why I'm passionate about what I do. This is a lifeboat for us. So if you're not passionate, you probably won't succeed. If it's only about the money, you will not succeed because you'll become a mercenary. So, moving on. Sunk cost. The opinions of other people. You know, the biggest prison that we all live in is the fear of man, the fear of other people's opinions. When you don't care what anybody thinks about you, when you don't care about the opinions of other people, you're free. When you honestly don't care, because you got to care about somebody. I care about my wife's opinion of me. And I care about God's opinion of me. And that's where it ends. And my own opinion, right? When I look in the mirror, I want to feel that I'm doing the right thing. But if you're concerned about what other people think about you, you have a problem, and we need to work on that. So what we need to remember is those people really don't care about you. Right? It's the old story, those that matter don't mind, that whole story. It's mind over matter. Don't worry about people. And if they really care about you, they'll forgive you, they'll understand, and they'll stand up for you. They'll support you. And there's very few people like that. We have very few real friends. You might have thousands of Facebook friends. You might have thousands of acquaintances or people that belong to the same club or church that you do. But how many of them are true friends? How many of them could you pick up the phone at 2 o'clock in the morning and ask him to lend you $1,000 or come and pick you up at the airport? How many could you do that with? Those are friends. So we need to be aware of the fact that we don't have that many friends. And those are the only people we should care about. Care about what God thinks, what my wife thinks, and what I think, and that's it. I don't really give a flying damn about what anybody else thinks about me, and I'm known for that. I'm not just saying it. So, next thing is learning and preparation. Once we're free of the opinions of others, we need to learn from others. Now, in my home, here in my little study, I have Churchill. Churchill lives here. Ayn Rand lives here. God lives here. I have all kinds of people, wonderful, wonderful mentors living right here in my little study in books. And those that aren't on the books, on the conventional books, are on this, are on my e-reader. So I got my e-reader, I got 700 books or something on there. So we can have mentors, the very best minds in history and in the present world, in books, and we can download that information into this brain software that we have. Anybody that is not reading books, and if you're too lazy to read, at least watch the YouTube presentations. There's a man now, Rabbi Daniel Lapin, Lapin, Rabbi Daniel Lapin, and he wrote a book called Thou Shalt Prosper. Thou Shalt Prosper. I believe for business people, that is the new Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Thou Shalt Prosper by Daniel Lapin. You know, you can't read that book once. You got to read it more than once, but it is a fantastic book. It is so mind-opening to understand money and business and what the Bible says about that. It's fantastic. And he's Jewish, obviously, right? But it's more about the traditional, the oral tradition, the Jewish oral tradition, which you're not going to find in the Hebrew translation of the Old Testament. So, a fantastic book. But if you're not reading and if you're not associating with good people, you're not learning. So we need to be learning, and we need to associate with good people, and we need to prepare. When I go to an event, I have put my clothes out the night before. I have prepared thoroughly the night before. I don't wake up in the morning and think, oh, I better have a shower. Oh, I better find, what am I going to wear? What am I going to wear? Run to a cupboard like a woman. You know, what shall I wear? What shall I wear? This, oh, no, not that. Try something else on. No, I got my clothes out the night before. The belt, the tie, the suit, the shoes. The shoes are clean. The nails are cut. The hair growing out the ears has been cut. You know, everything is ready. So when I wake up in the morning, I am on a mission. It's like when I'm in the army. I know where I'm going, right? The head is shaved. That's a beautiful hair that I have. So we got to be ready. If you're not prepared, if you don't know your business, if you don't know Karatbars, if you don't know the products, if you don't know how it works, and none of us know everything. That's why we've got people and leaders and things to help us. But the more you know, the more you learn, the more you earn. The better you prepare, the more successful you will be. And you just have to look at the training. I love watching Army training because I can really relate to that. I've been through it. But when you look at Marine training and the Mossad training and things like that, you see how hard these guys are trained. The Navy SEALs, how hard they train. They're being prepared. And so they're successful in battle. Right? We need to think the same way. This is very important. This is your life. Right? So very important. Preparation and learning, and then self-talk. You know, and I got to watch that because it's easy to say bad things about me, you know, and I do that, and it's not right. I got to work all the time. I got to refocus myself onto positive self-talk. Self-talk is, I can do this. Not, I can't do it, I can't do it, but how can I do it, right? And so it's, how can I do this? I don't have enough money. How can I earn enough money to make that work? Right? You got to think of how you can do it. Not how you can't do it or why you can't do it. So we need to manage our self-talk. Why? Because we believe what we say. Our subconscious believes our imagination. Just you know, let me tell you for a few minutes about cutting a lemon open and peeling it and eating a sour lemon, and you will start salivating like a dog. It's amazing. But we do. Our bodies react to our imagination. Our minds react to our imagination. We have reticular activating systems in our minds, which means that if you just bought a blue Honda, everybody seems to be riding a blue Honda. I like Tesla, so wherever I go, I look for Teslas. I see it. There's a Tesla, there's a Tesla, there's a Tesla. Drive my wife nuts. Poor woman. Imagine living with a weirdo like me. It's not easy for her, right? Not easy. But the fact is, your reticular activating system is you put a focus in there. And what you talk about, what you think about, what you read about creates a focus, and you find opportunities to make your goals and your dreams come true. If you don't have clearly defined goals and dreams, your reticular activating system is all over the place, and everybody that comes with another offer, oh, maybe I should look at that. You're like monkey brain. You're jumping from tree to tree to tree. Can't make a decision. Now I'm doing this. Now I'm doing that. Now I'm doing that. I've made that mistake. Really, it's not good for me. So now I'm focusing. I work on my self-talk. I work on what I say to myself. If I'm pedaling my bicycle, I say, every day in every way I'm getting better and better. Every day in every way I'm getting stronger and stronger, right? And praying and things like that. You got to focus your self-talk. That's why we pray, right? It's amazing. It really works. So self-talk, very important. And then input. Input is the places you go, the things you see in the background. You see my office, there's a picture of my wife there, and there's stuff of Churchill and my dad, and everywhere I look in my office, I see positive stuff. There is nothing positive or demotivating in my office. Everything has been put there for a reason, and when it's not motivating me, it goes out, right? So every book, everything I see is motivating for me, because subconsciously it's working, and you might not know it. But I got a thing above my desk here that says, I am happy, healthy, and successful. You know, that I got from Paul J. Meyer's training, and that was not that same sticker, but the same stuff. And actually it probably was from the same batch, but it was in 1987. I'm happy, healthy, and successful. Right? Now, I don't read that, consciously read it, but it's right above my TV screen, my computer screen. So every time I'm looking at the screen, my subconscious knows I'm happy, healthy, and successful. You got to put those slogans up. You might not consciously be reading them, but subconsciously, believe me, you know they're there and you know what they are. So we need to work on our input, what we read, the TV things we watch, the movies we watch, the books we read, the places we go to, the people we associate with. I say find people that are smarter, better connected, more motivated, wealthier. Find people like that and associate with them, and you'll go up in life. You mix with losers and you're going to go down in life, honestly. And you do not want to associate with people that are making excuses all the time, people that are victims of everything. You're looking for strong people that want to help people around them, that have a vision and a focus and a passion in their lives. Those are the people to associate with, not losers. There's plenty of losers around, right? You don't want to be associated with them. You might help somebody, but if they can't help themselves, then you might help them. But you do not want to associate with them. So your input is vitally important. Ask yourself, are you reading books? What do you do when you've got nothing else to do? What are you doing in your car? Are you listening to the news? Because the news is propaganda, right? You can listen to the traffic report and the weather report, and that's where it ends. You know, I say to my wife, if there's a fire, I'll find out about it. I use Google Maps all the time because it tells me what's going on my ride in my car. But I'm listening to good stuff in that car. I listen to radio stations that just sermon after sermon after sermon, good sermons by good preachers. I listen to that, and if I don't like a sermon, I switch it off. And then I put in a CD and I can listen to good music or good information. So if you're spending hours and hours in your car, I look on this Google Map thing, tells me I can't believe it how many hours I spend in my car, and I don't drive around that much. And yet there's distances to travel. What are you doing with your brain during that time? How are you preparing? Use your time for positive input, because you're really downloading positive stuff into your brain and you're getting powerful. So when you do sit down with somebody, they sense that. And if you handled worry and all these things, so what were these things? I'm going to get to number 10. Number 1 was the fish and the arrows, getting them all aligned, your physical, social, mental, all your different areas of your life. Number 2 was dealing with guilt and forgiveness. Number 3 was fear, panic, and worry and anxiety, dealing with that. Number 4 was focus, can't serve two masters. Number 5 was sunk cost. I've done this for so long that I can't possibly walk away. I'll be embarrassed, right? Which leads on to the other thing, opinions of other people. Don't worry about what they think. They don't matter. Learning and preparation, very important. Self-talk, and what we just discussed, input. Everything that you put into your brain, everything that you see, everywhere you go, should be positive. If you're having business meetings in a McDonald's, which somehow in North America they decided is a restaurant, unbelievable. It's not a restaurant, it's a trough. If you're having business meetings at the trough, you're probably talking to the wrong people. And you have no credibility. Because if you're dressed down and you slack and you're unshaven and you're not well prepared and you're meeting in a McDonald's, what kind of people do you think you'll recruit, if any? So then finally, God, right? I'm a Christian. I've been an atheist. I've tried all the different religions, not all of them, but many. I've tried them. I've been an atheist, I've been a Christian, and I'm a Christian again. And believe me, it gets better and better. And the stronger my walk with Christ is, the stronger my walk with God, the happier I get, the better I feel, and hopefully the more I accomplish helping other people. So I strongly recommend that you reconsider God. It's the only reasonable reason to live. And ultimately, eternity is a long time, longer than this little life we live in. So if we get all these things working together, we will be mentally stronger and we will achieve more. You know, Paul Jeremiah said, whatever you vividly imagine, ardently desire, sincerely believe, and enthusiastically act upon must inevitably come to pass. All of these things are included in that, right? Because a focused person is going to do those things. The $1 Million Success Plan by Paul Jeremiah, you should get that. It's on the internet. And if you need it, email me, Galtz Gold, Galts gold @gmail.com, and I'll send it to you, the $1 Million Success Plan. But we need to focus our lives, and we need to get our thinking in place by learning from mentors like Paul Jeremiah, like Zig Ziglar, who said you can get anything you want out of life if you're prepared to help enough other people get what they want. But if you're self-centered and greedy and it's only about the money for you, probably won't succeed. So I wish you every success. I really encourage you to focus very, very strongly on getting mentally strong in order to make your recruiting effective in Karatbars. We have the most unique company, the best products, the best service, and it is vitally important right now in our world. And it always will be, because it's based on physical gold. So have a golden future, have a good time, and thanks for listening.